The movie has a mockumentary setting and has people answering questions during some of the scenes. It begins by focusing on Andrew, a 37-year-old man and one of the few existing men on Earth who works as a housekeeper for a family consisting of only women. We see Andrew working on the garden, planting new seeds and watering the already growing ones. Andrew's boss, Tara, explains that they have had Andrew in their house for the past 3 years and expresses how much she has come to value him because he is good at his job. Tara tells the camera that a lot of people she knew couldn't find men to do the job, and hiring women was much more expensive. Her only concern is that the girls might yearn for something they cannot have seen a man in his prime. The scene changes, and we are taken to a church where an elderly priest is giving his recounts. He explains that in 1953, he was a young priest just out of the seminary. He was assigned to the Vatican, and it was his specific group's responsibility to investigate strange events. That year, there were 67 virgin births that warranted attention. At the time, there was no way to validate the claims as DNA testing had not been discovered yet. An elderly woman by the name of Zinnia comes on camera and recounts her story. She explains that she had gotten pregnant in 1953, which came as a shock to her husband because they hadn't been intimate in a year. Although she had claimed innocence, no one would believe her. Over the years, more and more women have started coming forward with this fact, making denying the issue difficult. Dahlia, one of the girls living in Andrew's household, speaks about him by saying that she thought Andrew would be a good father and appreciates his looks. Andrew explains that this house was the third one he had worked in and tells the camera that they kept him on his toes because there were a lot of people in it, especially children. He then starts to speak about Iris, one of the older women in the house, and explains how amazing she is. When mentioning Tara, he tells the camera that the woman liked to do things by the book, so he tended to keep a lower profile when she was around. One morning, the family along with Andrew go to a football game for the girls. While working, he gets approached by two older men who are also housekeepers. While they're talking with each other and laughing, one of the girls snaps at them, reminding them that they are not allowed to gather, forcing them to separate and go their own ways. The scene changes, continuing the documentary. In a convent located in a very remote part of Spain, a young nun by the name of Isabella becomes spontaneously pregnant. The church wanted nothing to do with the girl, and the congregation sent to investigate the case was ordered to completely destroy her file and deny that they had ever heard her claim. A few months later, the nuns in the covenant come forward and speak about the child's pregnancy. The last thing the Catholic Church expected was the nuns to speak up about the situation. As more and more cases start to emerge, women across the world begin to stand up for themselves. The camera focuses on Ajala, a professor grabbing the attention of the camera. She dives into the fascinating concept that throughout recorded history, those in power have often been reluctant to relinquish it. Meanwhile, in the background, a saddening scene unfolds as courageous women take to the streets. Their protests met with the dispersal tactics of gas bombs. One man tells the camera that back then, when the riots first started happening, none of it was organized. His mother hadn't even known about it, but one night, she just decided she had had enough. One night, while he, his brother, and his father were sitting on the dining room table, his mother appeared with her coat on and told them that she was going out and explained that she didn't know when she would be back, letting them know they could make dinner themselves. The camera is brought back to Zinnia, who had her child and who was raising it on her own. One night, while she is playing with her daughter in their new home, her husband knocks on the door and begs her to take her back. Suddenly, she has a realization that she has no use for him in her life anymore and rejects him. Back at the house where Andrew works, Tara speaks about Iris's paintings and how she loves all of them, but she is having a problem with Iris obsessively painting Andrew as she stares at him and takes pictures of him all the time. Iris thinks that people have not been acknowledging the issue of what having men go extinct might to all of them, which was why she made it a big part of her work. The paintings she had done of Andrew didn't sell though, because most women didn't want a picture of a man hanging on their walls. By 1957, 3 out of the 4 children born were coming from fatherless pregnancies, causing the number of children born by normal pregnancies to plummet. What the men found more alarming though was that every mother gave birth to a girl. Throughout time, the sperm cells became unable to penetrate the outer membrane of the egg, causing it to be completely shut out. Andrew, who was now 37, was the only male born that year in the entire world. Andrew explains that he received a lot of attention when he started school. It wasn't until he graduated high school that he realized how different things were going to be for him compared to the other girls finished with. It finally dawned on Andrew that he wouldn't have the same opportunities as the other girls. By 1967, America had the first female president and a regime change change was well underfoot as the population consisted of 64% women. Slowly, women began replacing the men in serious jobs until some decided to leave for remote areas to get away from the women. When the men saw that the women were functioning well without them, they tried to return and take more subservient roles. A few core groups decided they weren't going to accept the New World Order. By 1975, as the world's population continued to become dominated by women, the menstrual cycle of women started sinking, making them more aggressive and intolerant of the men who were protesting. The Governing Council of Women decided they would form sanctuaries all around the world to keep men as they lived out the rest of their days, presenting them with everything they needed to live comfortably. Although the men tried to fight for leadership, women stopped seeing the lack of men as a problem, spending trillions of dollars to cure diseases like cancer, but ignoring the genetic problem. Under the leadership of women, they were able to achieve world peace, allowing them to eliminate the budget spent on the military and even NASA. In the present day, Andrew feels guilty as other men see him pass by, as he was the last man born on Earth, as if he had closed the door for all others. As a young man, he had always felt that it was his fault, a thought that slowly disappeared as he got older. During an interview with an author with a PhD by the name of Dakota, she explains that despite what the government was trying to have them believe, women still craved sexual intimacy. The members of the Governing Council were out-of-touch conservatives who harbored an irrational fear of male resurgence. Dakota elaborates on how this paranoia had trickled down to the bedrock of the government's social policy. Iris and Tara were one of those couples that paired up to raise their children. Tara explains that they had gotten together in the 11th grade, when she had her first daughter, Dahlia. Iris tells the camera that their relationship was proof that women could pair off with someone without their being intimate, because it is impossible to force someone to feel that way. As Iris honestly expresses that their relationship with Tara is built on mutual support and acknowledges her continued attraction to men, especially Andrew, Tara's heart sinks, prompting her to request a brief pause from the interview. The camera follows Iris as she goes out to speak to Andrew, who tries to calm her down from her panicking. Cupping her face in his hands, he tells her that everything is going to be okay and kisses her, unaware that the whole family is watching them. After seeing the shocking scene, Tara rushes the children inside so they do not witness any more of what happened. Women in the administration are aware that there are still some who harbor feelings for the men and want to keep them from completely perishing, but they are as few as the remaining men and slowly dwindling by the day. In the first few years of the creation of the sanctuaries, men used to wander off in search of women, unable to control themselves. Border Patrol would be forced to corner the men and sometimes use tranquilizers to subdue them. As time went on, the men grew continuously passive until it became a rarity for the men to escape the sanctuaries. Darius, an avid protester against the women's regime, continued to make claims that hormones that decreased men's sex drive were being put into their foods in the sanctuary. Protesting this, Darius decided they were all going to go on a hunger strike, which quickly ended after a day and a half. After being caught by the camera and the members of his employer's family, Andrew is fired and ordered to leave his job. 3 weeks after the incident, Andrew's work permit was revoked and he was relocated to a nearby sanctuary. Although he doesn't think the place is terrible, Andrew's mind is unable to rest as he continuously thinks about Iris and the kids he helped raise. Back at the house, things went back to normal on the surface, but Tara couldn't recover from the incident, feeling betrayed by Iris. Although she tried to move on with her life, Iris was unable to stop thinking about Andrew. One night, while Andrew was sitting with the other men watching an elderly man perform, he realized that he wasn't willing to let his entire species perish in a snap of a finger. After getting a message to Iris, Andrew escapes the sanctuary in the dead of night and makes his way through the woods, finally managing to reach the main road where he finds Iris. Embarking on a transformative journey, Iris and Andrew find themselves on a drive, their minds filled with contemplation about the path that lies ahead. Fueled by their unwavering love and shared dreams, they reach a pivotal moment of clarity. With resolute determination, they make a bold decision to call a press conference, eager to address their relationship and its significance to the community. Standing before a room filled with journalists and curious onlookers, Andrew takes the microphone, his voice filled with conviction. He passionately declares their desire to get married and become parents, emphasizing the profound love and commitment they share. With unwavering determination, they urge the Governing Council to recognize and support their aspirations, appealing for acceptance and inclusion in their pursuit of happiness. Their heartfelt plea resonates with the audience, stirring a sense of empathy and understanding. The profound love shared between Iris and Andrew ignited a powerful awakening within people, inspiring a wave of women to rise and advocate for gender diversity. Their love story became a symbol of hope and progress. In the wake of this movement, societal barriers were shattered, and Iris and Andrew were finally granted the right to marry. Months later, a joyous announcement followed. Iris was expecting a child, a momentous occasion as it marked the first different-sex birth in years. The conception, however, held a remarkable twist. Through the marvels of modern science, the fertilization process was artfully manipulated, tricking the egg into perceiving the sperm cell as containing only X chromosomes. This extraordinary feat garnered even more attention and fascination, propelling Iris and Andrew into the spotlight like never before. As the movie reaches its conclusion, Iris, her belly swollen with the miracle of life, sits beside Andrew, engaging in heartfelt conversation. However, the atmosphere takes an unexpected turn when Andrew playfully jokes about his hopes for Iris not being pregnant with a girl. A moment of awkward silence descends upon them, hinting at deeper complexities beneath the surface of their relationship.